Hi, friends. There we go. Big
All
program,
right.
big program online tonight. Sorry, Bobby, I'm kind of thrown off over here doing some stuff behind the scenes. Man, Pete Rose died. Jeez.
Yeah, I saw him trending on Twitter just now, or X,
Yeah,
and it said Pete Rose in Hall of Fame was trending, and I'm like, well, maybe they're going to put him in the Hall of Fame. I had no idea that's actually why Pete Rose was trending.
yeah. I'll tell you, man, and they say it happens in threes. And I know that this weekend we lost Chris Christopherson. One of the highwaymen. I mean, and that's one of his least. One of his later things, but a really great career there from Christopherson. And then, of course, Dikembe Mutombo passes away today, and boom, there you go on a really big day for baseball. For crying out loud, Pete Rose dead at 83. So that will be some interesting conversations to be had with all of that. But great show that we have lined up for you guys. Chris Morris wins the South Texas IMCA Modified inaugural, not first annual, inaugural championship on Saturday night there at CBS. Bobby can fill us in on that as he was on hand for that one. He's going to join us. And then later on, Brad Dixon, you've got the Lone Star 600. New venue, same concept, 600 laps. And then coming up at around 7:35, we're going to talk to Bob Bolin. And with San Antonio, with the reunion coming up, talking to Colt 45 there, talking about some of the fast times there around the half mile and lots of other cool stuff. Bobby, your weekend, my man. How you doing, buddy? Cotton Bowl looked like never a dull moment there happening.
It was definitely exciting on multiple fronts. Good night to be there. Lots of close championship battles for a majority of the classes. So there was lots of good action, kind of some fireworks there during some of them races. But I mean, it was overall, it was a normal show, really. At Cotton Bowl, you throw in the extra activities of the championships, but all in all, pretty good show there from where I was sitting or standing, whatever you want to call it over there. Got to see some friends we don't normally see. So it's funny that we know everybody that's over there, and then when you show up, everybody's like, "The hell are you doing here?" I'm like, "Well, I'm here to watch the racing, here to see some racing. What are you talking about?"
And I got to tell you that is really one of the things that I'm very looking forward to, with kind of backing off from things. Is I do plan to go to some races. I mean, I'll work some races, but I do plan to go to some races and just watch. This past weekend I was over in Stephenville for football, and it's not very often I get to go to a football game when I'm not working. And I just sat there, I tailgated and watched the game and did all these different things. Didn't have any post game to deal with, and it was like really fun. It was really fun. So I guess there's life out there. So, and I will definitely do that with racing. But yeah, Cotton Bowl, man. And some controversy after, which I'm sure we can dig into at whatever point. But I think again, another great show there by those folks.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Looking forward to Oktoberfest coming up there in a couple of weeks. So we got a couple of really good racing happening up here the next couple of weeks. You got Texana kicking off next week, same weekend as the Lone Star 600. Then you've got the big Oktoberfest there at Cotton Bowl. Then you got the DTK there at I-37. So you've got a couple of really good shows coming up here in the next couple of weeks, and lots of places to go to get your racing action if you didn't get your racing fix this past weekend. So.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is, I mean, when you really look when you look at October, I mean, this is when things get really, really, really fun because like all the events you're talking about right there. But you've got, I mean, you got the World Crown that's going to be coming up at not to be confused with the Crown Royal. You'll have that coming up at Cordele, and there's just a lot of different things. And I said for the longest time, especially here in Texas, with heat and everything that we have to deal with, man, this is where I would really, to me, this is prime time racing season now because it's still hot. It's by all means not cool, but you're not out there in a sauna. And man, if you could push racing season out, like starting mid September up through Christmas and all that, I mean, to me, that would be perfect.
We've seen some winter series pop up over the years, so maybe we'll see some unconventional racing popping up in January and February before we end up getting into the full season here at the end of March. Hey, how about our man Jared Moppin going up north and kicking some ass up there? How about that?
Man, that was really impressive to see him do that because you get that divide right there to where everything is regionally different. But for Maupin to go up there and I know it's not Louisiana and I know it's not Mississippi and those other areas, but for this dude from down south to go down there and win not one but two classes, very impressive. But the thing about it is, I mean, for Jared Bobby, it's been such an impressive year for him. And I think with him heading to snowball, I think that's really an opportunity for him. And what I like that they have done with him, what Rick and John have done with him, is they've kind of let him get his feet wet a little bit with some mobile and all these different things. Hadn't been to Pensacola yet, but I think that he's going to go out and he's going to surprise some people, I think, with what he does.
Yeah, as long as the car stays underneath him. I know when they went to Mobile, they had a few little mechanical gremlins kind of follow them through there. They didn't make their night what they were looking for, but at the same time, the best of the best go down to the Derby,
Yep.
that Derby week. So he's going to be in for a challenge, but I think he's up to the challenge. Obviously, he's got some really good equipment under him, depending on which car he races down there at the Derby, but and some good people surrounding him. So I look forward to big things down there. Hell, I might even go back to the Derby this year because Lord knows UTSA ain't going to have a shot at a conference championship this year. So we might be doing another road trip come here the first weekend of December, heading down to Pensacola.
I don't know if I'm going this year, to be honest with you. I'm not on the hook to do anything, and it's always one of those things where one, when I come back from Pensacola, I get sick. Number two, it's a lot, man. That is quite the trip right there. So I may enjoy that from the cozy confines here of the AV Consultations studio this time around. So lots to be figured out yet as we're a little ways off from that. But I mean, I just really think that it's a chance for him to go down, and he did mention to me that they're looking to maybe go early because I think the one thing that Jared's going to have to figure out when he goes to Pensacola is with that surface. I mean, to figure out tire wear and all that. I mean, because you have to drive the car different there. I mean, that place is so abrasive. I mean, that thing will tear your shit up. So I think the more laps that he can get in there before he actually gets in competition, especially like in the truck, because Jared, in my opinion, where he comes from, it's like balls to the wall. I mean, the thing with like the truck, and I think maybe even with the Outlaws, you can't do that because you're going to tear your stuff up, the tires that is. And man, at Pensacola, if you do that wrong, man, you are in big time trouble.
Oh yeah, definitely. If you fry the tires there and eat them alive, man, it's like Larry Mack's cheese grater, but even on a magnified scale of that. Where you have the tires running across the cheese grater, but man, all that sand goes into that racetrack and just turns it into razor blades. So you definitely got to learn tire conservation. We see it at the Derby all the time. Hell, we see it in their weekly show where you got to find a way to manage the tires. So it definitely the one I want to see though when I go down there is the Crown Stocks. Obviously, I want to be there for the big shows. The Derby itself, the Snowflake, and Outlaws and some other stuff. But I'm interested. I keep hearing nothing but good things about these Crown Stocks they run down there. So I'll be interested to see how well what those actually seem like in person. Hell, if I could find, I always say I don't want another race car, but those don't seem to be as work inducive as some of the other cars. Sure, you got to work on them and tune them up every now and then, but it's like you just got to keep that thing together with four wheels and you can have a good time with one of them Crown Stocks.
You go watch them there and you're going to realize they're working on them because to watch them last year, Chris Morris coming up here in about 4 minutes. If you go out there and you watch them, man, they are just ripping that place up, when they're out there. I mean, it's and they're probably going to have 30 of those. I mean, they're going to fill that thing up. And what I like about now, with the Derby is that you're going to have, I mean, you add them in, and this is where, because we have the conversation all the time, where are the trucks, where are the modifieds, where are all these different things, they will be there that weekend. And, that's one of the things that really, it's a head scratcher to where it's like, okay, you don't want to spend money, but you're going to spend money for the most expensive race of the year and go down there and maybe not perform the way that you could if you ran some weekly stuff. But it's the prestige of it, and it's only getting better. I mean, I think with the move over to Flow Sports, I think that's something that's going to. I mean, it's always been on a big stage, and our friends at Speed 51 and Racing America have done a great job to propel this thing and put it on live streaming. Man, Bobby, I think now when you go to Flow, my goodness, that is going to be such a big event.
Well, I think so. I mean, I think that the Derby helped elevate the streaming world as a whole,
It
right?
invented,
Obviously,
in my
obviously the production value went up. I mean, we remember 10 years ago, or I guess probably 15 years ago now, listening to the Derby via Speed 51 radio. It was an audio only broadcast. And
Yep.
then you had the live, like they used to do with Lone Star Speed Zone, and Nick Holt here in Texas had the live message board happening and the up to date stuff. So, you know, then when they first started the digital streaming aspect of it, the graphics got better, video quality got better, sound got better. And I think because of the importance of the Snowball Derby, I think well, number one, raised the eyebrows of this streaming thing that everybody thought was stupid years ago, wondering what the hell we're doing. We're not real radio people, not real TV people. And then all of a sudden you see the video quality that you get out of the Snowball Derby, and it raised the quality for everybody. It set a standard for which it needs to be upheld. And I think that all the streaming stuff, when they put their best foot forward, you know, sometimes if you just show up with a video camera and an audio plug from an announcer PA standpoint, not always the best show, not always the best view. So I think that there's still some learning curves and some infrastructure that needs to be put in place for some streamers and some streaming racing. But overall, I think the Snowball set the standard for everything at which it was supposed to be, right? To make that race, you know, the show palace and the showpiece that it really is.
It really was. I mean, the first one that you saw, I mean, a short track race that was going to be telecast in any form. You know, obviously you're not going to get it on. You know, by the way, did you see DirecTV and Dish are going to merge? That's coming up, I think, in Q4 of 2025. So things are about to get really crazy different now with the streaming stuff. But that's a business thing. So anyway,
they bought it for $1.
$1.
Bought it for $1 and assumed a boatload of debt.
Yeah. That's the whole thing. What a deal! Got it for $1. It's like when the USFL. You remember when the USFL had their thing right there, and that was a big old mess. And that was when Trump was an owner, and he got a check for $3. He's like, "Oh, what is this?" Well, but you get all the debt, buddy. So congratulations on that. So that's what's happening there. But for satellite and all that, I mean, they're in a bad spot. I mean, even for cable, it's very hard. And now that I have cut the cord, I mean, it really is nice. I mean, you just go and it's like, boom, there it is. So anyway, but yeah, the Derby really was kind of set the standard. It was that first event. It was that really big marquee event. And at the same time, you did have, you know, the Chili Bowl and all the different things, but they hadn't gotten to that part yet. And they figured that part out, and you know, off they go. Our man Milton checks in. Yeah, man, we got that right off the top. We were actually a minute late because of the Pete Rose thing there. I think that Hall of Fame debate is going to be fun. I know what I'm talking about tomorrow on sports radio. I'm sure that will be one of the top.
He's already a Hall of Famer. He's in the WWE Hall of Fame.
Oh, there you go.
Under the celebrity ring.
That's all that matters right there. I mean, if you've made it to that part, you have definitely done something right. I'll tell you who's going to be in the stems in the South Texas IMCA Modified Hall of Fame when that happens, you know, 20 years later from today. It's going to be the first ever champion that crowns it, takes care of business over at Cotton Bowl Speedway. I mean, no surprise. When I saw this series that came about from Jacob Horch and everything that he was looking to do right there, this is one of the dudes that I figured might be at the top of the heap. He wins in a hotly contested championship. Our man, I like that. The handyman, Chris Morris. How you doing, brother?
I'm good. How are y'all?
Doing well, man. Doing well. Talk about Saturday night, dude. You go in there, no pressure. You're just tied.
No pressure.
Yeah. Kind of walk us through it.
Heck, the whole year's just been a battle. You know, thankfully we got the drop races. Of course, I think we still, I don't know what the points were if we would have ran with all of them. I think it still would have been pretty close. Because I ended up missing a race for my sister's wedding, and then there was 2 or 3 races that I got taken out and didn't finish. So, you know, we knew with going in, we were looking, I think, at the 2 drop races. So we knew we were going to have the one for sure for Allison's wedding. And then we were like, oh, you know, I think we'll be okay because, you know, usually we're pretty consistent. So we were down I-37. I guess that was 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago now.
Yeah.
And me and Logan were battling for the lead, and we were making the pass on him going into third, and tagged a lapper with a right front going into 3, and ended up spinning out. Ended up finishing 6th on that one, which really hurt us, coming into this last round, and we ended up tied. So really didn't have any playroom there, and so we just knew we needed to beat Logan and then stay within, I think it was 5 positions of Ryan. So Logan's been fast all year. He's definitely. I think he won 5 of the Stems races, and heck, we've only got 2 wins this year on the season. So low wins for us this year, but I feel like we were probably one of the more consistent guys, and I think that's kind of what really helped. So just going into Saturday, we had a game plan. We're hoping for a good draw in the heat race, which we didn't get. We were supposed to start 7th, ended up starting 5th, and ended up winning it. And Logan was 1 spot out of the redraw, so I was like, okay, great. That was best case scenario we could have got. And then I redrew the 8, which is like the worst one I could draw. And I'm like, of course.
Yeah.
So, we were starting pretty close to each other, and so I knew it was going to be a good race. And Ryan was starting on the front row, I believe, front row outside. So I knew we were going to have to get up there pretty quick if we were going to have a shot at winning it. And I think it was like 2nd or 3rd lap. I got a good run out of 3 and cut under Dylan Tyndall. So I went to the inside, and I've run high pretty much until then. So I went to the bottom, and sure enough, when I did, Cody and Derek, I think Cody got tagged in the quarter, I think, by Dylan going into 1 is what it looked like on the video, and he started spinning. So it collected Derek, and then I just had nowhere to go and hit Derek with the right front and just completely KO'd the rim. And it was a pretty hard hit. It actually yanked the wheel out of my hand. I thought, man, that's it. Like, I thought we were done. And Bailey came over on the 4-wheeler and said, I think it's just a tire. So, and then I was just trying to get to the hot pit, and I was back and forth because it wouldn't turn left. So it'd only go straight. So I had to back up to get it to turn, and then I could go straight. So I don't know. I bet it took me 2 or 3 minutes of going back and forth just to get it to the hot pit. And my dad, my brother-in-law, and a whole bunch of other people come running with the jack and tire, and got the front tire changed out. And my father-in-law was like, how bad's the toe? And he said, don't worry about it. It's fine.
Just drive.
Yeah. So, I was going through the hot pit. I came on right at the tail end of the field as they were, coming down the back stretch, took the green. And I don't know. So I think my mom and dad thought it was somebody else driving the car because I was driving, with a mission at that point. And, the first 2 or 3 laps, it was kind of like I kind of threw caution out the window. And so I had to calm myself down a little bit so I could make sure I hit my lines good. And about halfway through, I could see Logan ahead of me. And at this point, I think we only had the 2 laps complete, and that was the only caution we had the whole race. So I had no cautions to help me the whole race. I think we were like lap 10, about halfway, I could start seeing Logan, and just kind of kept getting a little further closer to him. And he had Dylan in front of him. It was Raymond. It was Dylan, Raymond, and him. And he got by Raymond, so I had to work on getting around Raymond, and got him. And then I got up to Logan, and then just kind of stalled out. Seemed like on my speed as far as catching him. And so then I kind of started searching around a little bit, and found a pretty good line where I was diamonding 1 and 2 and coming off the bottom of 2. And I think it was like lap 15. I entered really good and got a really good drive off the bottom. And it was kind of just one of those now or never moments. And got to the inside of him going into 3. And he said, he came up to me after the race and, shook my hand. And he was like, I think and my mom was like, I think he didn't know you made it back on. on the track. And sure enough, he did. He's like, I couldn't, like, I didn't know if you were back on the track or not. He said, when I saw the blue and yellow, I just, like, I started kind of trying to pinch you down to try and slow you up. And, we were both trying to, kind of fight for that bottom. And thankfully, I got enough drive where I was up next to him and snuck by the inside. And then we just held on to that position from there. And thankfully, Ryan fell a few spots. So I think he was only 2 spots ahead of me. So at that point, I sucked down on the tires, and I knew I couldn't get off the tires, and I'd be all right. And I guess the 6th place was as good as the win Saturday night, so we'll take it.
No doubt.
So, Chris, what's been your experience with the series? Obviously, it's an inaugural season. You've got speed bumps with the series, and everybody questions a few things here and there. Overall, as a competitor in that series, there was a lot of hype going into 2024 about that, with everybody kind of pitching in and bringing their idea to it. Did it live up to the hype in your in your opinion for what the season turned out to be? Obviously, you feel good because you got the championship out of it, but take that away. Did it live up to what you expected it to be, or did it exceed it?
For sure. I think it exceeded it. As the year progressed, we started, even racing for more money. And I think we probably raced for, 1,000 win. It was 4 or 5 times at least. And car counts were great. I think the lowest one we had was at I-37, the last race I-37, which there was 12 cars, which was kind of right after Boone. And, we kind of figured probably it was going to be a lower car count, and it was really hot. And but I think other than that, we were averaging 18 to 20 cars every weekend other than that. So car count wise, it was great. Pay was good. I think doing the points fund was really cool to kind of give that incentive to have everybody run for the whole year. It was really nice how we were able to do draw, redraw every race. So it wasn't one of those deals where you were just, if you were doing good, you had to start at the back every race.
Yeah.
So I think that really helped with, keeping cautions down a little bit too. Cause you didn't have people just going crazy trying to get to the front in 2 laps, you know what I mean? So, I don't know. It was really, really good. The racing was good. For the most part, we had a pretty decent track to race on. I think every race, as far as having multiple grooves, I don't think we ever had a track this year that just locked down on the bottom or up on the top. So overall, it was definitely a really good year, and I think it'll be even better next year.
I totally agree. And of course, the point fund right there, On Demand Shirts, a partner of ours here on Revved Up. The provider of that, and Chris Morris, the winner, the inaugural winner of that, and he joins us here on the program. Chris, you were talking about that right there with the success of the series off of Bobby's question. I always thought it was weird where the modifieds were kind of falling off a little bit. It seemed like the last couple of years. The series comes out. You guys had a lot of back-to-backs, and like you talked about, there were still a lot of damn cars that were traveling to do this series.
Right. And I think all the tracks working together was the biggest part to it, because you always have, you'll have 6 here or 7 there or 10 here, but we were all trying to race on the same weekend at all the tracks. So when we kind of just only had the one track to race at a time, it really helped. And I'm sure the fans loved it just as much as we did, as having a good field to race against, and not just going out there and racing against 9 cars. So now I sure hope the fans enjoyed the show this past weekend, because I told my mom and dad and Brenda, I was like, man, I bet that was a great race for the fans to watch, but it was nerve-wracking for me.
Yeah, imagine.
I enjoyed it. It was fun to watch, because I think when you throw the big mods out there, it ends up adding that, it's like they look like the limiteds, but yet when you see them and hear them, they don't sound like anything else racing that night unless the late model's there. So
right.
You definitely tell the difference when that rooster tail comes up with dust and dirt and all that behind those cars. You can definitely tell they're different. Let's talk about the state of modifieds. Obviously, you mentioned that, before, when each track was running, you had 6 to 10 per track. Now you're running, 17 to 22, depending on the night. So that puts the big mods into a new kind of stratosphere in my mind around here. Then you had Mod Wars in Waco, which is I mean, they're big mods, but you throw in $50,000, you're going to get guys out of the woodwork and pulling cars out of the weeds for that. But the overall state of the mods now, I mean, did this series solidify it, or you think we're going to see more guys transfer over from maybe a stock car, maybe a sport mod over? Or is it just going to be the same guys? I mean, it may be guys coming down from or coming over from a late model. I mean, what do you think is going to happen this upcoming in 2025?
Oh, I mean, I think everybody's kind of just hinging on what the heck's going to happen in November. It's nothing. It's certainly gotten more expensive, no matter what you run. I mean, my sister runs stock cars, so I know what goes into that. And with the IMCA mod, I don't feel like cost difference is really much different between the two. It's just hard to say. And you had a lot of people. They have their mods, but they had family stuff going on that they couldn't make the races. Or I hear a lot of people that it seems like some people have gotten burnt out. The people that have been around the sport for a long time. But I've also heard of and seen some newer people that have gotten into it. I'm really hoping that we can hit some of the north track, like get up north a little further next year, and kind of get those guys involved in the series too, because I feel like that's kind of like the next stepping point to growing it a little bit bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Because we never really, I don't even know if we got anybody from like, the DFW area that came down and raced any of the races. It was all just kind of all the guys that were more, all basically, central, Austin down.
Yeah.
Was kind of where all we pulled from. But, and it, I don't even know if it was, I think we had some races where they didn't run up north, but I don't know. I think there's talk of Waco and Kennedale maybe getting on board next year, which that would be really fun. Waco's a really fun track, and I'm really hoping that we can do some stuff up there, because sometimes we miss doing that Friday, Saturday racing. And I know at Waco we had multiple fans coming up to us like, man, we missed the mods being there, and we hope y'all come back some more. So hopefully we get up there some more this year, and or I guess it'd be next year, and grow the class even more.
Yeah. Chris, I do want to ask you about Mod War. And by the way, thank you for going, because the South Texas contingent was very thin. I think you and maybe 3 others, maybe. Kind of talk about that whole experience. That there's a lot of money on the line, like Bobby talked about. A lot of people coming in. Did that one live up to and just as a competitor, did that live up to the billing for you as to what you thought that was going to be when that was all starting?
Oh yeah, I knew there were going to be some hot shoes there, and I don't know. The first night we fought the car being a little tight. Practice, we didn't get very many laps. We had a distributor problem. It took us a while to kind of finally figure out what exactly it was. So I think we got like 4 laps of practice before qualifying. So we qualified okay. We just had a little open motor in there, nothing fancy. So, I wouldn't. I don't know if quite a knife to a gunfight would be the word, but maybe a spear to a gunfight. But it's Waco's a little bit more of a leveling field just because it's a smaller track. But when it's got a lot of moisture, it's still hard to compete with the bigger motors. But I mean, some guys were able to, and if this kind of depended how the track was and how it shaped up for your heat races. I think each night the mains were great as far as track being racy. They did a really, really good job of keeping the track conditions great for all the features and stuff. I think what impressed me the most was the 100 lapper. I think everybody and their mom was thinking it was going to lay rubber, and I never saw any notice of rubber getting laid on the track at any point, anywhere on that track, because you had guys racing pretty much top to bottom on that thing, and I think in May it got a little bit bottom dominant towards the end. But you still, and that was more just towards the front of the pack, because in the middle of the pack they were still running 3 wide. So it was definitely a really fun race. We definitely plan to hit it again next year if they do it again. Which, to my knowledge, I think they're planning on having that, for the next 4 or 5 years. So we'll definitely be going back next year and take the notes that we learned this year, and hopefully we can actually put it in the show next year.
There you go.
So that kind of stole somewhat of the thunder about 2025 plans. So it looks like you're going to stay in the big mods. Talk about rest of 2024. Obviously, you got that big race at I-37 coming up towards the year. You like to travel out to New Mexico and El Paso to some of their big stuff in Arizona. What's on tap for the rest of the end of 2024, first part of 2025 for you?
I think we've got one more round, just with our. I guess it's not going to be the STEM sanctions, but I-37's got another round, and then they'll have that big one in December. So we'll definitely be doing both of those, and then after that, we'll probably just be getting the car ready to head west out to Arizona for the Winter Nationals in January.
No doubt. Chris, got to ask you, coming off the championship for you, some of those, every time I'd look on the podium there for Stems, there's the bride. Looks like she had a pretty good year there for Stems also.
Yeah, she got her new car going again finally this year, and they were getting some bugs worked out of it, and I think they finally got it going in the right direction now, and I think it was earlier on in the year, one of the rounds at Texana, I think she led about 3/4 of the race. I thought she was going to win that thing, and then she ended up getting passed, I think, after a caution come out, because she pretty much was gone before the last caution came out, and she's kind of had a up and down year, but it finally caught her stride kind of towards the end of the year, and I think she beat me twice this year. How many times did you beat me this year? I don't know. It was 2 or 3 times she beat me this year, but
dinner talk. You got to love that. We saw our head kind of bouncing around over there behind you. So I knew one of us was going to ask you about Brenda. We just didn't know which one. So
yeah.
So does it add any extra pressure for you? I mean, like, you're a competitor. You don't like to finish second, but does it sting a little if she beats you? I mean, does it make dinner time complicated?
Not really, because I think we both want to see each other succeed and do well. I think the only time she got mad at me this year was when I wrinkled up her door and I had to fix it when we got home.
It's a good husband right there, man. That is a good husband.
I'm the body guy.
There you go. That's what all the other women say too about you, Chris. No, I'm just kidding. That's good stuff, man. Congratulations. It sounds like a very stressful Saturday night, but you got it done, and you take home that ODS Stems Point Series Championship, as I thought you would. You were, if I was laying money down, you were the one that I would have picked. Congratulations, man. Looking forward to seeing you down the road. Keep after it, buddy.
We will. We certainly appreciate it.
All right, buddy. Take care.
All righty, y'all have a good one.
You bet. Chris. There he goes. Chris Morris, the handyman, 2024 series champion of the South Texas IMCA Modified Series, Bobby. And he kind of walked us through there about everything happening Saturday night. You were right there on hand with the intel. Man, that sounded way freaking stressful to me, dude. I would have been taking a piss every 5 minutes if I'd been in that spot.
Well, it was weird. We all thought it was done down there in turn 1 and 2 because all you saw was just the right front, just at an angle that you knew was like night ending. So we all thought, I thought he might have had some steering issues and stuff like that because it didn't, when he pulled out, it didn't turn. Lo and behold, we come to find out it was just a broken wheel. And so, because I saw him in the pits after, I said, what kind of damage is it? It's just a broken wheel. I was like, really? Because it looked, it looked from up where I was standing, like it looked like it was just terminal on that right front. So, but when he says that he was on a mission, man, he had a rocket strapped to the back of that thing and he was hauling ass. I mean, it was like nonstop, inside, outside. It's like you knew he was driving on that next level. I didn't know if he was just driving because he was pissed or driving because he was determined, but he was driving. I mean, he was driving the wheels off that damn thing, and it was a lot of fun. Him and Logan put on a pretty good show there, racing side by side. But I mean, Greg, old man Dinsmore, we can call him now. Greg Dinsmore. I mean, even though he didn't have his pet raccoon Rocket with him, he kicked their ass. All of them.
Good. That's good. I mean, I love that. When you get one of those dudes, I mean, I saw that pop up, and I'm like, now that's what I like right there. When you get one of those dudes winning, so great job there by Greg Dinsmore and obviously Chris Morris winning that championship. Speaking of Cotton Bowl, their next event is coming up October 10th through the 12th. So a little bit of a break. Well, a week off, I guess it is. Yeah. Oktoberfest 2024, and that always a marquee event right there. Texas Dirt Truck Series coming in. The Stems will be back. It's not a points race, but that's going to be a very jam-packed race weekend happening out there at CBS, and I like that they're doing it that weekend. That's a really good weekend for them to do it, because you don't have anything else. I mean, unless you go way further up north is where you have some of those events right there. But I think that's a really good opportunity for them to bring in some folks. I mean, to bring in some invaders that are going to come in, get some of those folks from South Texas as well. I think it's some of those factory stocks and sport mods or limited mods, whatever you want to call them. I think that are going to come in, and I think that's going to be a loaded program happening next weekend.
Yeah, it's a Thursday, Friday, Saturday show. Looks like practice is on Thursday. Racing starts at 8 o'clock on Friday, and then the normal 7 o'clock start there on Saturday. So three big nights of racing action. Definitely, I think, like I said, Thursday's a practice night. Probably don't want to make it out for that. You can bring an RV out there. They just don't have any RV hookups. So plenty of spots for one to come out if you've got your stuff set up and you want to kind of what do they call it? Boondock a little bit like they do for the World of Outlaws. So they got plenty of spaces for that up in the parking lot. So it's going to be a good show. I had a damn good time listening. I thought the racing was really good there in Cotton Bowl. So. Yeah.
And as we mentioned, I mean, it really is a good time of year right now. I mean, because the temperatures are a little more forgiving, it seems like. And that's when we get these big races that come up. And Brad Dixon's going to join us here momentarily. And we're going to talk about arguably the biggest one in the state of Texas all year. I mean, definitely right there at the top of the heap, right? When you look at events. But I mean, for CBS, I think another great year for Marianne and H out there where they've put another great season in the books. And I mean, there were hurdles. I mean, there's always hurdles. I mean, it's never a boring thing, but I really think that what they've done a really good job is it's weird how now the weather cooperates with them. We've talked about it in the past where it seemed like that place was always getting rained out. Now they don't. I mean, now they don't get rained out. They're always racing. And I mean, the whole thing is, I mean, you've got such loyal people, racers, fans that are going to go to that place. Doesn't matter what the event is, regular show, Oktoberfest, you get hell, World of Outlaws. People are going to show up there because they just like going to that facility.
Yeah, that's why I said on H Saturday night the races were over. I said, man, you have a super duper loyal ecosystem here, both in the grandstands and especially in the pits, because those guys and gals, they race their hearts out and race their guts out every time that track is open, and will show up rain or shine and do anything that Marianne and H of them ask. So it's it's a hell of an ecosystem they developed over there. The fans love them, drivers love them, and it's it's just they have the formula that's working. Sure, there's going to be little hiccups every now and then. That's racing, right? Like I've always said, everybody says I'm never coming back to a racetrack because of XYZ, because it's never going to happen at ABC Speedway. No, it's racing. Same shit happens everywhere. It's all part of it. That's why it's called racing and not slot cars. Because you don't race in one straight line there on a predetermined track. So it's part of it when you see it on some things. But overall, I mean, I think, like you said, it was a damn successful 2025 or 2024, and they lead into Oktoberfest here in a couple of weeks, and I expect big things from that one.
Yeah, it's going to be a huge one. That will be really, really big. Speaking of big, biggest of the big coming up this weekend, and it's a new venue. I mean, it's kind of weird that this race has shifted over. Now going to be in Cleveland over at 105 Speedway. It is the Lone Star 600. Last year, I was actually able to be a part of that. This year, just a lot of conflicts that are going on. So not able to be a part of that. But the man, one of the guys right there that puts this whole thing together, and it's a year-long thing that happens. It is our man, Brad Dixon, joining us on a Monday. Brad, how you doing, brother?
Doing great. Doing great. How about you guys?
Doing well, Brad. So for the 600 this year, I think we had an idea that Devil's Bowl was, whatever was going to happen right there.
Mhm.
When did preparation start? During the race last year?
Well, I got hammered pretty good about what are we doing for next year? What are we doing for next year? And having a facility that could hold all the cars at one time, like we have done it the previous 10 years, unfortunately is getting fewer and far between. The big tracks just seem to they're on the chopping block more than they are, being built. But we had to come up with something new for the 11th annual Kenco Bucket Trucks Lone Star 600. And it was difficult because after you've done something for 10 years, there's the old saying, don't fix what isn't broken, but we had to do something and do something completely different. So everything has changed, the format, the track. And people say, why 105 Speedway? What made you pick 105 Speedway? The Lone Star 600 is a unique event. Laney up at Devil's Bowl, we had a great working relationship, Martin and everybody. But what really made it interesting is there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that goes on, like with the Lone Star 600. You were there, of course, so you can see it's not the typical show, but there's tractors running around in the background. There's all kinds of different things going on. And when I had to pick another venue, Joey Smith and Jason McNorton, I've known those guys for a long time. They kind of know how I am. I'm a little bit wiry at times. I get that. But, if I say, hey, Jesse, I got to hop on your tractor, go after it, get it done. So I needed a place that we could go to that those guys understand exactly kind of how I work, and they're willing to do whatever at the, kind of fly by the seat of their pants on this thing, because there is no script for the Lone Star 600. Things happen that you wouldn't expect, One year at Devil's Bowl, we had a car go off the track, and then he drives around. Well, he's going through the parking lot, the spectator parking lot, dodging in and out of car. It's just, there's always something crazy going on with the Lone Star 600. That's kind of what makes it special. But we're at 105 Speedway, and the format's completely different. So, what people have expected in the past, well, we're giving them 600 laps each day now. It's completely different. So,
yeah.
So Brad, talk about the format. Break us in, because I know it's new. It was unique when you told us that it was changing last time you were on. Now we're a week away. So talk about the format, because I had a lot of people asking me about it, and I was like, hold on. I said we're about 99% sure Brad's going to come on the show. So listen in on Monday, because he's usually on talking all things 600 and all things racing, which I'm sure we'll get into that in a little bit.
So just like kind of like the Mod Wars this past weekend, people enter and then wind up don't showing up, trying to sell their entries. And you try to base these shows based on your pre-entries. And it gets a little bit difficult because you're trying to calculate purse, structure, and everything. But what we've done is, we'll just say 150 cars. We have a little over 100. We expect about 150 cars. So we'll have 3 qualifiers on Friday. Each qualifier will have 50 cars in it, and it'll be 200 laps. Damn. The top 33% out of that qualifier will go to the gold. The middle 33% will go to the bronze, and the silver, and the remaining will go to the bronze. So the top, say, roughly 16, 17 cars out of each qualifier go to the gold. The middle group of each qualifier goes to silver, and the bottom of each group goes to the bronze. And what we're doing is, with the bronze on Saturday, it will be 200 laps. It pays $2,500 to win, pays down 15 spots. So in theory, when you show up, if you're the 48th fastest car, you would theoretically be in the money for the bronze. We're paying out a whole lot more positions. And it was unfortunate. One of the gripes is with the 600 is, on Friday and Saturday, we paid, the top 25. When you have 150 cars, that means 125 of them didn't get anything. So we tried to make it this time where if you have a little bit of bad luck, you can be in the bronze. If you're a mid-pack car and some guys go out there just to have fun. Don't take it too serious. Some guys take it real serious. So with this new format, you kind of on Saturday, you get in where you fit in.
Yeah.
But the gold, theoretically, if everything goes like we hope, we'll have 16 of the fastest cars from each qualifier. So that gold and it pays $15,000 to win. Out of your averaging finish from your gold qualifying plus your finishing order on Saturday, and the gold pays an additional $5,000 bonus. So you're theoretically in the gold, you're running for $20,000. But the neat part about it is you run a car. The way I tell people, and this is what frustrates me, and I'll get on the factory stock bandwagon here in a minute, but these guys crack me up. But what's funny is if you run a 50 car qualifier and run 200 laps, I hope that everybody believes in themselves that they think they're at least a top 16 car.
Yep.
You know, if you go to a race and you running 50 cars and 200 laps and you don't think you're a 16th place car to get in the gold, then hey, the silver's where you can be, you know. And the silver pays, here's the crazy thing, the silver race pays $5,000 to win. So it's no slouch. So by the numbers, if you're the 80th place car, when after qualifying, you should be in the silver running for $5,000 to win. That's kind of unheard of on big shows. You know, if you're the 80th place car on a big show, you're usually a D main, 5th place, loaded on the trailer and watching the rest of the alphabet soup.
That's it. You're drinking beer up in the stands is what happens right there. So I got to say, I love this format. I mean, for me, I mean, this is this takes it to a different level, in my opinion. And I do think, I mean, yes, I mean, I wish we were on, Devil's Bowl. I miss the big track, but I mean, I think that you tighten this thing down. And for this kind of money in those races, I think it's going to be tremendous. Brad, one of the things, because I do want to ask you this, last year I was fascinated the way that the behind the scenes stuff, the way that all of this happens. I mean, there's not transponders, there's not any of this stuff. I mean, everything is all of that still the way this is going to work, to where it's people like this.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the complaints we get is when people say we should run transponders, this, that, and the other. Well, you were behind the scenes. I hate to say it, on average, out of 150 scorecards, it's usually anywhere from 4 to 8 get disqualified every time for a scorecard infraction. It's a lot. It's real easy to catch it with the cameras, the whole bit. So yeah, but it takes a monstrous crew to put this thing on with the behind the scenes, the scorecards, everybody. And somebody said, well, transponders would be easier. And you're right. Transponders would be easier. But you know what else is also easier? Me sitting at home faking disability so I can get on welfare and not working. That's easier. But that's not the way we do it. We do it, the transponders, if one of them screws up, we got an issue. And if you were out there running your laps and your transponder goes dead because I furnished it, or there was a hood laying across the wire where you crossed it and it didn't pick up 2 laps, now what? We'd have to go back and manually score it anyway. So we're just going to manually score it from the start and not have to worry about it.
Yep.
So, but yeah, as far as the one of the things that's cracking me up, I say get on the factory stock soapbox.
Do it to it.
I have been watching these factory stocks and I've seen a huge problem with them. The price is going through the roof. I admire the factory stocks. I started in bombers in the 80s. The only thing different from those bombers in the 80s to now is they run aluminum bodies and racing shocks. To be honest with you, we probably had better fuel than actually stouter motors in the 80s.
Yep.
But what I don't understand is these factory stock guys not wanting to tear up their car, and they are just demolishing each other at these big shows as of late. I saw one wreck. No, I'm not going to mention. There was some wrecks here lately that if that happened at the Lone Star 600, I'm going to walk up to the guy that hit the person after the accident had already commenced for about 8 seconds and ask him, don't come back. So
Yeah.
when I say that this Lone Star 600, there has been several guys I've asked, hey, over the years, it hadn't been in a while, but hey, if that's your style of driving, we don't really need you here. And there was a group from Tennessee that got sour with me, but it was necessary. But what I'm getting at is these factory stock guys, and there are some open entries. There's people you can actually probably just hang out and run in the bronze and run for $2,500 and run your factory stock and not even get a scratch on it versus totaling it out, knocking the carburetor off of it. It's definitely interesting. So I encourage some guys that, hey, it's not too late. There are some entries. If y'all want to get with me on Facebook, message the page. We have some folks that have some entries. Unfortunately, after doing this for 11 years, I've developed a lot of relationships with the guys. And one of the sad things is, and, I know Marianne's got the Oktoberfest with the cancer.
Yeah.
Cancer is really plaguing our sport, and guys that started with me when they were 60 years old are now 71. Guys that were in good health at 55 are now 66. So, one of the sad things after doing it for 11 years is, there's a enduro racer, Jared Carroll, was always a huge supporter of the Lone Star 600. Jared was rough around the edges, but had a kind heart. Yeah. And cancer got him. So, it's sad. One of the sad things to see is how many racers in the 600, because it's older guys. My son is 15. He finished eighth last year at 14 at Devil's Bowl. But, I wish we had more younger youth getting into some of this stuff. But, I do want to say to all the guys that are listening, sometimes I try to message a lot of them and talk to them. Make sure your health is in good shape. I'll do this plug for my old guys. I know I'm anti-doctor sometimes, but get the prostate checked out and make sure your health is in good shape, because, this racing is a tight-knit community, but we're also seeing more and more of our racers, come ill, and that's tough. I got a buddy of mine, Alan Williams. He's always run the 600. He's fallen ill. So, that's the sad part, but we're looking forward to a great show. Like I say, it's 105. It's going to be interesting. This new format, it might change the way some big shows are done in the future, because, if once they realize that, when a car spins out, enduro cars always start back up. I don't know what the hell it is with these limited and factory stocks.
Thank you. Pavement cars. They don't start till the yellow comes out.
Electrical problems.
They have electrical problems, but yet they, even though the rule says 12-volt battery, they got a 12-volt battery on a 16-volt battery. A 12-volt sticker on a 16-volt battery. I get it. Some of these, what cracks me up is when the car doesn't start and then everybody goes by. Some of these guys' cars spin over so fast, if the motor was locked up, the car would flip over. So, I don't quite get it, but in the enduro, people will see that, these cars fire up and nobody's banking off one another. So I look forward to potentially change the way some big shows are actually done once this model is shown. Yeah. Instead of running 8 million qualifiers and B mains, run everybody. And we did something at 105 that's kind of unheard. So to put it in perspective, typically at 105, we run 20 sprint cars. Mm-hmm. We started 27 sprint cars in a feature at 105. The fans want to see that. I hate to say it, 9-car features and 4-car heat races aren't entertaining. So, hopefully in some of these bigger shows, we can figure out how to make it more entertaining for the fans by having qualifiers that have 20 and 25 to 30 cars in the qualifier instead of 8. Yeah. So hopefully my format will start to revolutionize some things. And I'm grateful that Joey Smith at 105 kind of took the chance on me when I pitched it to him. He looked at me and I said, "Hey, Joey, I need to use your track and I need to do something different with it." And he said, "Well, let's go for it." So, and and he's been pretty awesome. As you know, he runs the big block modifieds. You know, he's been pretty good at trying a little bit of everything over there, to throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. So,
yeah, it's great.
So, Brad, I know you're here to talk about the 600. I want to go back to this getting the youth involved. What's the missing link here? Is it, I mean, Trent's unique because he's been around racing and he's racing at, 12, 13, 14 years old. Is it just because kids are always on a phone and they don't go outside, or they can pick up a ride to town with an Uber app or whatever? Is it a disconnect from cars? Tell me what we need to do to turn this around, get some youngins up here.
You want me to tell you the truth?
Absolutely. Bring it.
These new millennial dads are bitches and they suck. They can't change their own oil. They can't do jack crap. They have to depend on everybody to do everything for them. And it costs them an arm and a leg. The problem is not so much the kids. It's the fact that the dads are bitches.
And they set the precedent right there.
I mean, here's why. I mean, I know it sounds goofy, and I'm fortunate, I'm fortunate because I pour a lot. My wife, she does a phenomenal job pouring all of her time into our daughter in volleyball. But, it sounds a little silly, but I'll give you a quick 4-week rundown of my son the last 4 weeks. We ran sprint cars. Then we took the enduro car out and did some test sessions. And then we ran sprint cars again. And then I took him to the fair and he raced go-karts all day. That's the last 4 weekends. And I know all dads can't do that. And I get it. But when if the dads would start bringing the kids out to the track, and if the dads don't know, if they find a crew out and just start giving a hand and helping out and letting the kid hang around, it's okay that the dad doesn't know which way to turn the lug wrench. He needs to learn too before he can just say, you know what, I'm going to get my kid into racing. I'm going to buy me a mini sprint. And then the kid flips, the kid quits. The mom's all up in an uproar because the dad doesn't even know what to do. When I see some of these new few kids wreck, and then the dad can't even get it on the trailer.
Yeah.
That's a problem. So
that's a big problem.
We ask what's wrong. And it sucks because you can't go to the poor schools. I was a school teacher. I don't know if you guys knew that. I taught 11th grade. Yeah, I was a school teacher for years.
Mr. Dixon.
I got in trouble because I took kids on what they called unapproved field trips. I taught at a poor, predominantly super poor school. Let's just put it that way. And I would pull the trailer in and the kids would hop in the back of the truck and I'd take 6 kids to the racetrack. Well, I got in trouble for that. You can't do it. You got to have an approved field trip, but you can't get an approved field trip on a parent that you can't even get a permission slip signed from because they're cracked out or whatever. So the kids that want to do it can't, and the kids that can, the dads don't know how.
And Brad, that's a great. I'm sorry, Brad. That's a great point because with a lot of tracks that I've worked with, it's the whole mission of getting the kids involved, and it's like the kid can't drive there. I mean, the kid, I hope, is not going to walk there. I mean, it is. I mean, you've got and the whole entertainment value and all that. It's really great, but it's ultimately on the parents to get them there, and that really is the thing. I mean, they're not interested. They're sold out. They're doing other things, or they just don't give a fuck is the other part. And I think that's the sad part, in my opinion.
And the parents, if you don't know a whole lot about racing, and that's okay, and you look up, all you see is parking lot takeovers and cars skidding around and smacking into, overweight bystanders and their wigs flying off. I mean, that's, it's, it sucks because, what the parents see, and even if you have a kid that's a little bit interested, the parent doesn't know anything about it. The parents, it's kind of a unique thing, but the hard part about racing is we have a huge disconnect. We say, oh, single fathers. And even now more so, even though the dad is still in the home, I think we're starting to run into a problem because now, even though the dad is in the home, we have what I would call single kids. They're in the room on the video game.
Mm-hmm.
So just now, even the kids that have a dad at home, the dad is disconnected. You know, the dad doesn't do jack as much as he used to. He doesn't cut his own grass. The cars, back when I was little, you would go out and there would be cars on those old Walmart red ramps and people would be changing their oils.
Yep.
When have you seen a pair of red ramps and somebody driving their car on a pair of red ramps?
Mm-hmm.
You don't see it. So I think the biggest problem is not so much the kids. I think the bigger problem is we have a problem with the dads. And the women want to do, women are way more supportive in motorsports than men now. The women are the one to do it. You see who gets emotional in the stands. The dads that fight, that's just a male machismo thing. And the sad reality of it, they're horrible fighters. I mean, these male fights that you see on the front straightaway, I mean, yeah, what is going on? I mean, it's horrible. I mean, it's so what I'm saying is even the men don't even know how to fight anymore. And I'm not condoning fighting. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying, you know, women are more passionate.
They're really good at this, though. They're really good at the keyboard.
Oh yeah. They're keyboard warriors for sure. But you know, the women that do, you can see a shift in the pits. You see the women helping their kids, especially in karting. You see women doing more for the son a lot of times than the dad now. So I don't know what the answer is. I do wish that we could get more kids involved, but then I go back to the same thing. You know, the cost of it has gotten so out of hand. You know, I bought 2 radiator hoses and it was $65. You know, so when you look at it, some of this stuff, you know, it's getting really, really out of control. And that's one thing that was neat about the Enduro is you could run old stuff and be competitive. And people say, oh, well, these cars are fast. My son's car, you know, like say he finished 8th, he's 14. Lawrence won in it.
Yeah.
But it is a 2001. I've had this limited for now 23 years. And it's a Chapman Dust Devil limited. And that's all there is to it. I mean, it's, you know, it's got an oil and water temp gauge in it, and it's simple living. But people think they got to over-engineer it. And, you know, and yeah, there are some, and one of the crazy things is you're starting to see some cars on the internet with these bars on it. What cracks me up about factory stocks is there's probably 85% of these factory stocks got curtain rods under these Dominator nose pieces. Why even bother at this point? I mean, these factory stocks start hitting stuff and they just disintegrate. I don't quite get that. One of the sad things about these factory stocks is they and I hope that people start looking at them, because there's a trend to make these factory stocks look cooler than they are safe. The welds are sucking in them. The cars are blowing apart. Back in my day, we would flip a car and you could literally beat the roof back out and probably go back race it. A factory stock flips now and it disintegrates, and nobody's opening their eyes saying, hey, we got a problem here. These are supposed to be an entry level aluminum bodied bomber. What are we doing?
And it shouldn't cost $25,000 to have one. It's not entry level. 2,500, more in that area, but you know, that's a whole other story.
And then we start the E-Mod class, and the E-Mod class was real good, but then you get Daddy Warbucks who wants to buy his way in and buys a brand new 2023 E-Mod that will perform better. You know, everybody laughs, but maybe we should have put those E-Mods on 4,500 RPM chips and made them run 30 pounds of air in all 4 tires. Hey, there's a concept. Let the car not handle good. Let's see if the kids can actually get car control.
Yeah.
You know, but that's you know, y'all can have me back on the show and we can really go down a rabbit hole. I got some interesting stuff on that, but you know, I know you had me talking about my Lone Star 600. So what I will say about that is if there are any young drivers, I would encourage you to get an entry. Find one, call me. I got a couple that I can transfer over. But it is an awesome experience for a young driver. That's why Trent does it. You know, he'll start off on one track condition, and after 200 laps, he's had to change his line at least 60 times. You know, go high in one corner, go low, and then 50 laps later, you better change it. Run against the wall, get off the wall. Wait, it's coming back black. There's a strip of rubber up there. Get back up there. You know, he has to really think. And when you try to run 20 laps and then come back next week, run 20 laps, come back next week, change the car, run 20 laps, you really learn to adapt as a driver. So, you know, that's, I hope some youngsters, you know, that are kind of starting out, even in the E-Mod class, you know, put a little weight on that car and come run the 600. You will be amazed at how much better you'll be your next race. You know, it'll come easy. In fact, Trent said, you know, sometimes he said, man, Dad, 20 laps just goes by too fast. You know, he's wired up and ready to go. So it's I encourage any kids out there that are young, that are watching, or even dads, you know, reach out to me and see what it'll take to get in this deal.
Yeah. Get out there and learn how to drive. Learn what racing is all about. That's the show. Brad, we got to do it again, man. We got to cut you loose. But Lone Star 600 on Facebook, you can go there. We'll pull up the banner a couple of different times. But looking forward to checking this one out, man. Thank you for the hashtag real race talk, dude. We'll do it again.
Not a problem.
Off season, my friend.
If you can't make it out, as I say, Race on Texas does a hell of a lot better broadcast than my ugly face on this screen. So check it out on Race On, and they'll have it all covered.
There it is. Looking forward to it, Brad.
Also, real quick, real fast. Yeah. Because of y'all promoted the on demand and all this, and I met James about a year ago, and after 10 years, we have switched vendors. We are with ODS shirts, phenomenal shirts. Our merchandise is phenomenal. So I just want to give him a huge thank you. It's been a pleasure working with On Demand Shirts, and I can't wait for everybody to see the new merchandise and come check us out.
That's right. More than just shirts. It's On Demand Shirts, the provider there.
I think they posted a video this afternoon. Those shirts are looking sharp.
Yes, they are sick. Phenomenal. The best shirts ever. You know, you can put the other 10 away and frame them or make a quilt out of them, because this one will be your new favorite for sure.
Boom. There it is right there, my man. All right, dude. I'll check in with you afterwards. Have a great weekend. Stay sane as possible. Take care of that lady, because she does so much. I think people don't understand on race weekend.
She's awesome.
Yeah. Go kill it, man.
All right. Thank you, guys.
All right. Take care. Bye. You bet. There goes Brad Dixon. Hashtag real race talk. We'll podcast that shit out.
Absolutely. That was podcasting radio gold right there.
Good stuff right there. Talking about now, this is a guy, and you've got the San Antonio Race Reunion that's coming up this weekend, and that's why I wanted to reach out to my man right here, because I want to talk to him about his career, obviously, but this is a dude, when it came to San Antonio racing in the late models. Oh man, so fast, scary fast watching this guy out there. Welcome to the Revved Up Sports Show. It is the great Bob Bolin. Bob, how you doing, my man?
Well, I'm doing great, man. That Brad has a hard act to follow.
Bob, that guy kind of talks the way that we all do, doesn't he? I mean,
yeah, I'm sold. I think I'll go find the car for the 600.
So, Bob, I did want to ask you that. I know that you came over to me in Houston a few weeks back, and I told you, Bob, you need to get you one of these, my man. How close are you to getting one of those, my friend?
Well, me and a buddy of mine have been talking about those Crown Vics. That just looked so cool, and that's something I think we could do pretty easy. And I actually looked at some and so forth. But we hadn't done anything. But it's sure interesting. When I get to the track, you know, it's one of those deals to where I got to get out there. I just don't like sitting in the stand. So
I could sense
anyway,
that.
We've been talking about it.
Nice. Good job.
So, Bob, it's one of those things that we've learned as an old timer, if you will, one of the legends that we like to talk to on this show. how hard is it to get racing out of your system, or is it something that never goes away? It's the drug that you can never get enough of. It's the adrenaline rush that you can't replace with anything else. How are you dealing with it now after all these years of not racing?
Well, I'll be 72 pretty soon, and I don't know how you do it. So, you know, what I have done to kind of help that along is we ride the Harley all the time. We put 15, 20,000 miles a year on our Harleys. And so we do a lot of that and get a little excitement out of that, but we still like to go to the races. And, you know, if somebody offered me to come out and drive their car, I'd still do it.
Hell yeah, I know you would.
I might embarrass myself, but I'd go.
Yeah, well, you know, it is what it is, man. I mean, I've done that in the last couple of years. So Bob, I mean, with the San Antonio reunion coming up in Poteet, and we'll, you know, give more info about that later on. You're going to be a part of that as well. I wanted to really hone into you because, like I said, with San Antonio, that big half mile, I mean, you with Twin Cities and Austin and Pan American and Corpus, all the different tracks that you race late models, that track comes along, and you had the San Antonio guys, you had the Austin guys, you had the Corpus guys, but then here comes you and Charlie Cohen, JD Hughes. I mean, you guys would show up. Just talk about the late model racing back then at Highway 16.
Well, you know, when I first went there, it took me, I guess, between 2 or 3 years to ever win a race there. I mean, when I first went there, it was high banked in the turns and in the flat straightaways. And, you know, you had to run that track pretty different.
Yeah.
And, of course, we didn't have enough car when we first went there either. And San Antonio took a good car. And matter of fact, the car I ended up running and winning the most there with was Freddie Fryer's old bot car. And he'd sold it to Charlie Cohen, and I bought it from Charlie. And that old car would get around that racetrack. You had to drive it to the point to where I told Charlie, he was working with me, and he said, Bob, he said, I want you to go in there and drive it plumb to the middle of the turn and burp it and stand in. I said, well, Charlie, he'll go over the fence. I've already hit it a couple times. And he said, just try it. And so we went off in there and did it one time. And that car hooked up a bite and come off that turn like, I mean, you know, it just jerked your neck. And then we started going fast. But you had to drive the track hard. And out there in Twin Cities and up in Amarillo and all those tracks out there and, you know, Corpus and some of them, those little bull ring tracks, you had to race hard. I mean, you didn't go down there and just want to be like that bronze or silver class they're talking about in the 600s. You had to go out there and be the gold. And it seemed like every time we went anywhere, like Austin or whatever, that we could pretty well compete. San Antonio threw us, a few of us, for a loop until we updated our cars, I think. The first car I took down there was a Howe car, an old spring car, and it did okay. I mean, we ran second, I think, in that one race that was like supposed to be an all-pro 100-lap race, and it ended up being 224 laps, and we ran second in that race with the old Howe car. But that's because we just stayed out there, and some of them made pits, and I never did. We just stayed out there. And then we went back and got a Frings car. It was John Foster's old car, and that Frings car would hook it around that track, and we'd run up front 10. Yeah. And then we ended up with Freddie's old car, and of course, you know, if it came from Freddie, it was going to be fast. So it's a lot of our racing where we seem to be really, really badass. It was a good crew chief, old Dan Crocker, and it was a good race car that originally came from Freddie. And I know that they've done some things to that car. So that was really good. I had a lot of people that supported me through that. You know, we didn't have tons of money. We built our own motors and everything, but we finally got San Antonio down to where we could go down there and we could run up front. And it took a while. I mean, guys like Hubert Bean, you just can't run up there and pass Hubert Bean. I mean, you better have your act together to get around Hubert. And so it's San Antonio racing was a blast, and I miss it.
Yeah.
So, Bob, talk about the good old days, not just at San Antonio and Highway 16, but you guys would travel around. Like you said, you guys would go from Highway 16 down to Corpus, over to Speedorama, up to Odessa, and all the way, all over. And it's like, that's unheard of today, I guess, because of the cost. But I think
Right.
cost was still relative back then because racing's never been cheap. It's just relative to the decades and stuff you're involved. But how did you guys do it back then? Did you just not know any different, or was it just the camaraderie? I mean, what made you guys travel all over the state, balls to the walls, trying to have a good time with racing?
Well, a lot of it was camaraderie, and Leroy Farmer ended up putting together that Texas Pro Series, and it was basically all of those tracks you're talking about, and we had a ball back then. Matter of fact, Slick Yeomans went over to Alan Yates, who was the owner of his car, and Slick told Alan, he said, "I want to go racing and have fun like Bob and them do," and because they were always trying to be so analytical and so serious about it, and they're fast. I mean, they always won too, or won a lot. We did outrun them sometimes, but anyway, we had fun. It didn't matter. And I remember we was in Amarillo one night. Leroy Farmer got up the next morning and he said, "Man, I didn't know what was happening until I saw you and Slick out there in the parking lot." And he said that's when we had those big old satellites. And we were out there spinning that satellite, and he said it'd go from Mickey Mouse to Playboy, Mickey Mouse to Playboy, all night. And I think we even had a baby bed race that night. And Slick was in the baby bed, and I was pushing. I was the motor, and I shoved him off in the pool, but it was empty. So we had a pretty good crash in the parking lot. But then we go out the next day and just race like heck against each other,
Yeah, that was always a thing back in those days. And Bob, kind of the conversation there that we were having with Brad, and we talk about it on this show all the time, is the drivers then versus the guys now. Man, you guys, I mean, the respect factor that you all had back then. I mean, you'd rub and you'd race and shit happens. I mean, shit happens. But
right.
Man, you guys, and as fast as y'all were going back then, kind of talk about that part. You raced with some really damn good people.
Yes, sir. They're in San Antonio. I mean, if you're really running to San Antonio, you're down there in the 18, 19 seconds,
Woo. Yep.
You're fast. And you are really hooked up and you don't have a lot of room for error. And you do rub. I mean, that's just part of it. And, and it's just like they do on NASCAR. I mean, you can hold them high, and you want to do that if you can. I remember Greg Davidson used to hold me, said, "Dadgum high if he was starting on the inside. I didn't know if I would get between him and the wall."
Yeah.
And, or he'd pinch me off, and I do the same. I mean, I'm not saying anything bad about Greg. Greg, one of my best friends, and, God love him, he still wants to go racing. I think he will this year if he can.
Yeah.
But, we race fast, and that track on that picture that's there right now, that's the Altus track.
Yeah.
And we qualified on that track in the high 16s. Half mile.
Dang, what? That was a half mile? Holy! Oh, that was the other. Yes.
Our qualifying lap on that race, and I qualified right in front of Slick. Or was it right behind? Anyway, Slick and I were there together, and my qualifying lap was 16:98. And that was fast. And we ended up, we were running second, and we were lapping the car and got into him and run him up the telephone pole and just got the car out of whack and ended up running like fifth or sixth. But that was part of that Texas Pro Series. And when that shut that down, Foster was leading the points and I was running second in the points. Wow. And then we had Rick Corelli in there, and we had Don Wilson from Colorado, Candyman, and J.D. Hughes was part of that. A bunch of us were. And that was a lots of fun. And like I say, we'd go out there and race like heck and scratch up the cars. And then, like in San Antonio, we'd see the sun come up drinking beer together.
Oh, God. So, not surprising.
So, Bob, talk about the racers from Midland and Odessa. That's a hotbed of racing. There's been some really good, talented drivers come out of there, but I don't think they get the credit they deserve for being as damn good as they were. Talk about those older racers, those racers up at Twin Cities in Odessa and Midland up there.
Well, when I first got there, and you're right, because the first time we went to Austin, we were one of the fastest cars there, and never been there. The first time we went to, when we got that Frank's car, went back to San Antonio, was running on a track record. And, we'd just never run there much. And then we got to where the Odessa Speedboat really didn't want us there, with some of those cars. So we went to San Antonio just about every week for a couple of years, and always run there real well. But the guys out there, I'll tell you a quick little story here. My dad and I had a TV and appliance store, and there were two guys that worked with us, and one of them fixed all the appliances, and one of them fixed all the TVs. And I was drag racing at the time. This was back in the early 70s. And I was drag racing an old 68 Roadrunner. But anyway, and I, of course, kept it spit shine. I didn't want any scratches on it, and don't touch my car. You know how that is.
Oh, yeah.
Well, these guys would come in every Monday morning talking about what happened Friday night at the racetrack, out there at Odessa Speedboat. And they'd say, man, you need to get you one of these. And I'd look, I said, I don't want them beat up old 55 or 56 Chevrolets. I just don't, that ain't me. Y'all just get out there and run over each other. That's just, no. I'm going to take my shiny little Roadrunner out here and we're going racing. And so finally they talked me into going out there and driving one of those 55s one night. And I had a freaking ball. I mean, that was the most fun I'd had in all my life. I was about 19 or 20 years old anyway, and I just had a blast. And so the next week, they hooked me up with a guy that had an old 62 Chevrolet, which coil springs. Now, everybody's running leaf springs, and I think they were kind of setting me up there. But anyway, this car was a coil spring car they'd been trying to make work, an old 62 Chevrolet. And I went and bought that car. I bought the car, trailer, ready to race next weekend for $400. Yeah. Well, on the way out there, I hit a curb with one of the tires on the trailer, and the axle come out from under it. But that's just the way it is, because it's only a two-wheel trailer, and it went like this, So, but it was kind of how we got started. But those guys would go out there, and when they get that track, they put on a race. And John Foster was there. He had a 55 Chevrolet, and then a Nova and a bunch of other things. And John Foster was there, and James Lee, and, two of the guys that really, really, really always made me reach a little higher. And they also always helped me was Doug Paul and Frank Crawford. Those two guys, they were just really, really good to me because they were kind of the guys that were there, and I was the new kid coming in, and thought I was something. Of course, they knew better, but they would always help me, and point me in the right direction, They wouldn't tell me everything, but they'd give me enough and help me enough with the car where I could compete. Yeah. And those guys really did help me. And we went from 55 Chevrolets to the Camaros, and then we bought our first late model from John Foster, and it was an old Phillips car.
Yeah.
But, we raced out there, and like I say, anytime any of us went anywhere, we were pretty competitive. If it was like, say, let's just say, and we'd start the feature sometime with 15, 16 late models on that little quarter-mile track. Yep. And back then, and the worst time we'd have 10, but I would say that the top half of the field at any time could probably compete anywhere.
I agree, Bob, and that was always a thing because when I first saw you was here at Speedorama, and it was one of those things to where like when you and Foster and these guys and Hughes, you guys would show up and it's like whoa, I knew where you guys live versus where we were. So you guys would come in and you would be ultra fast and come out and beat, Schwabe and Tommy Davis and all these guys that were racing, that were the cream of the crop around here. And it was a really good group that you guys had up there.
Yeah, we had a ball. I'll tell you who really catapulted me toward before I quit was Charlie Cohen.
Yeah.
Before he died. And, Charlie, I bought a couple different cars from him and a couple from Foster because they were always the cars that, if they outran me real bad, I was going to try to buy the car. I mean, that's just the way it was. And so, anyway, but Charlie finally told me to drive the race car. He said, I'd say, man, San Antonio is this. He said, Bob, it's a circle. You go around it, you turn left, drive the race car. Well, then was going off to Phoenix. And I said, Charlie, I'm a little worried about Phoenix and everything. He said, Bob, it's a circle. It's a little bit longer. You go a little bit faster, but the track's longer. Drive the race car. So we got up to Phoenix, and Bobby Allison was there, and we ran the Copper World Classic. And I knew Bobby from some races and stuff, but so I was talking to Bobby, and we ended up qualifying right side by side, 12th and 13th. And there was 150 cars there, the stock car products cars and all of them. So, and JD was there. Matter of fact, it's either that race or the next one at Phoenix. JD won it.
Wow.
But yeah, with all of us short track West Texas racers are going up there running that 1 mile, and I loved it. Yeah, there's a picture of Charlie Cohen right there. And that's, he was my pal. Him and I did a lot of stuff together. But yeah, we went up there and Charlie went with me, and we qualified 12th, and we ended up running 7th on that very first time at Phoenix on the 1 mile. And that, you know, we were just tickled to death. Crocker, my crew chief and best pal, you know, and the guy that got me going and built all the motors, he said, I'm going to Dallas. I got a girlfriend I'm going to go see because there ain't no way you're even going to qualify for that race. And so we called him on Saturday night after qualifying, and we told him that, yeah, we qualified 12th up here at this race that you said we couldn't even make the field. He said, what? I said, yeah. He said, I'll be on the plane in the morning. Of course, he come in Sunday morning. He's going to take over everything now. So, you know,
Of
so we're up there. And, but, yeah, and Foster had a new car because I bought his old one from him, and he didn't do that well that weekend, but he's the one that talked me into going. Yeah. And old Jess Armcorn says, you don't drive into one that deep your first time at Phoenix bowling. I said, well, it's stuck. Why not?
That's it. That's right.
So, but yeah, we had a ball at Phoenix, and you know, we got to race with a lot of good people and a lot of guys that have really gone some places. One deal too, Rusty Wallace came to College Station one time when we were racing the Texas Racing Champions.
Yeah. You
know, and we'd run down that straightaway there at Texas World Speedway, you know, 180, 90 miles an hour, and fall off into that 2-lane flat road course. And Rusty Wallace come down there and run with us, and he went to load his car up and said, you guys are stupid. But anyway, it was a lot of fun.
Oh, good times. Good times.
So, Bob, you stole my thunder about Texas World and the Race of Champions up there. Now, you don't have to tell us about the racing. I'm just wondering if the statute of limitations has expired on some of the extracurricular stories and parties that you guys had back in the day. Because some of the legends won't elaborate. They'll just kind of hint at it. But you guys put on a hell of a race, but you guys had a hell of a lot of fun up in the fountains at the hotels and the pools and all that up at the Race of Champions, didn't you?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, the wet t-shirt contest, man.
Yeah, they had one deal. I'll just tell you a quick one here. They had one deal to where our hauler truck was parked in the middle, right out in front of the Thirsty Turtle or something in the highway, and they couldn't find a parking place for everybody to get in. They just parked it and turned the flashers on and went inside. And of course, I think cops hauled all the crew back to the motel, and they broke the doors down. They had to buy the doors, and oh, it was crazy. And but before that happened, we always had the wet t-shirt contest. And I remember this one particular year, Leroy Farmer's girlfriend won it.
Oh, I remember.
But they got me to get up there, and of course, this was probably a case of beer later.
That's right.
They got me to be a judge on the wet t-shirt contest. And you talking about, yeah, you talking about oh man, that was crazy. I ended up with all of them, but it was a hoot. We did a lot of crazy stuff. I remember, y'all know Ron Chambers. I remember Ron Chambers was out there, and this one big old guy was picking on him, and Ron had a few to drink. Ron was just walking around and kicking sand on him and laughing. And this guy was trying to get on him to kill him, but got him. But I mean, that just stuff went on all the time. You know, putting tacos in guys' cars and, you know, stuff like that, or a fish sandwich, you know, stick it up behind a panel and stuff like that. We did that stuff all the time.
Bob, isn't that crazy to what Bobby's talking about right there? I mean, you guys, that's a thing. I mean, the speeds that you guys ran out there, and then when they brought the super stocks, you know, it was like, hell, they were not as fast as you guys, but that was a death trap back then. I mean, it was like right off of turn one. I mean, talk about that transition. I mean, because I always said we've had guys on the show, Bob, where it's like you hold it wide open all the way down the straightaway and you leave it open until you flatten the damn thing out. Then you lit up. And it's like, are you kidding me?
Well, what I found, and we could pass a lot of cars going off into that. Me and Jerry Shiles one weekend went down there, and we both got caught with something they didn't like on the car. So they put us in the back of the heat race, the very back. Well, they divided the field, and we always ran like 40 cars.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Oh, yeah.
and they put us in the back of 20 cars because they split them up in 2 heat races. When we went into one, Jerry Shiles and I were running first and second side by side, starting in the back. He went to the apron, I went to the wall, and we never lifted till we got in the road course. And going in like he did was crazy because you couldn't bend the car enough. You're going too fast.
Yeah.
If you hit the brakes, you're going plumb off the track. If you hit the clutch, you're going over the telephone pole.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was just that crazy of a transition. It was like you'd hit it kind of like this, and everything on the car would hit the ground. When you bottomed out, then's when you got out of it. But we found that we'd get right up next to the wall and just stay with it till you got there, and then just bend the car, let it bottom out, grab third gear and down to second, because then you had a 90-degree left and a 90-degree right, then a horseshoe, and then back on the track. And that was crazy.
Yes.
Best we ever ran was second.
Man.
I think Slick won it. That gun Slick was always giving me fits.
He was good.
That was a fun deal. We always loved going down there, and it was a party from about Thursday till Tuesday. It was a party. And I mean, the second time I went down there, Ronnie Miller from Arnett, Oklahoma, I'll never forget it, driving an orange car, got killed right in front of me.
What was that going into the off of the big track down onto the
No, you know how they drop about the tunnel turns? Yeah, that track had one.
Yeah.
And it was there in turn 4, and you could swap lanes pretty easy right there. I mean, first time I hit it and I wasn't ready for it, I went from the 3rd lane to the 4th lane just as soon as I hit it. I mean, the car just moved. And what he did is he caught a gust of wind right there and hit that tunnel, and the car just, I mean, it endoed, side barrel rolled, it did all kinds of stuff, and we were one of the first ones to get up there close to him. That was a bad deal. He was running right beside the VitaFresh car.
Jimmy Fingers.
And I was running right behind him. And anyway,
yeah.
And I started to never go back, but we went ahead and raced that weekend, and we ran top 10. But that was probably the worst feeling I ever had watching that happen.
I bet.
And he was 18 years old.
Yeah. Yep.
But we had a lot of fun. And you're right, it was a death trap.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about a 1/4 mile, 3/8 mile race car, you know, and you're going to take it to a 2-mile super speedway or 2.5 mile.
Yeah. Not designed for that. Bob, I mean, I do want to ask you, I mean, we're talking about racing and all that, and the fact for me that you still travel on the bike and that you're going to racing and you're sitting here recounting all of this. I mean, I say that you're a badass for what you've done on the track, but man, you are a badass because you're still with us. You have battled, you've had some health stuff, and here you are. You're still here, and your mind is like boom, 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 boom. Everything good for you on the health side.
Well, you know, it hadn't been a while, but yes, I'm here today. You know, and you got to live one day at a time. But in 2019, I had 2 new lungs put in, and which was a tough deal. And of course, when they do that, they kill your immune system.
Right.
And so I can get sick real easy. And the side effects from lung transplants is usually like cancer and diabetes and stuff like that because you can't fight it. Well, now I've actually got what they call stage 4 cancer right now. And we've been fighting the cancer for 3 years. But, you know, everybody here, and the good Lord is taking care of me. He knows my time. He knows my day. And I don't care if I'm on a motorcycle or in a race car or fighting stage 4 cancer or whatever I'm doing. When it's my time, I'll go.
Yeah.
And I'm ready for that. But I got a lot more I'd sure like to do before it comes time. And I just try to live that way one day at a time. And I love it. And we ride with the CMA Christian Motorcycle Association. So, and we get to meet with like the banditos and pray with them and stuff like that. And, you know, I saw my friend Paul Lehman over there win a race at Houston the other night. And then he won the dirt race the next week. And that guy he tickles me and I like him. And, he does a lot of work for the Lord too. And I got to say, it's God. That's where it's at. It's God for me, and a wonderful, supportive wife. And I've been married more than once, and we're not going to go there.
Well, it happened.
But she, number 7 is doing just real good. But she has taken care of me and been there, and I just, I feel like I'm going to try to make another 20 years.
I think you are, my man.
So,
Bob, the one thing I love about this show is that we're able to connect with you legends. And I know you guys, we've talked to Slick, we've talked to Freddie, we've talked to so many guys of your era that when we call them legends, you guys are like, I'm not a legend. I was just a race car driver having fun. In our mind, you guys were the core that made this sport the way it is for us nowadays. And we appreciate you coming on and sharing the stories. But the best part about it is that we get to rekindle that fire that y'all have.
Oh, yeah.
But we're also hoping that you guys, not only since you inspired us, you're on to inspire that next generation of racers to remember what it's all about. Yes, it's a competition, but it is about having fun, and it is about making the memories off the racetrack. So, the fact that we've had the honor to talk to you and Freddie and Slick and all of that, like, it's just so cool that you guys are still willing to talk about the good old days. Because I wasn't around for that. Rodney was more, he's a little older than I am, so he was more into that time period than I was. But I love hearing these old stories. I love hearing how you guys would go nose to nose, door to door, wheel to wheel, and then you go down and have a beer and talk about it afterwards. So I think that that's just the cool part about the Legend series that we have. And I think it's so cool. I just think it's so cool that you guys share those stories. Not all of them. One of these days, we'll get some of you guys to tell the real stories. Might get Tom Taylor on here to tell some real stories. But I just think that you guys have, I don't think you guys realize enough what you guys did for the sport back then. And I don't think you guys realize how much inspiration you are to that next generation of racers and even us that are still currently doing it. So we thank you for coming on and thank you for sharing these stories, man. We really do appreciate it.
All right, man. Well, listen, I appreciate you guys. And, when you call us legends, it embarrasses us because we just think we're having fun. You're right. Because it's not anything I consider myself. I wish I could have done a lot more. I'm going to say 2 things about 2 people at San Antonio right quick. John Kelly was one of my favorite people, one of the nicest, hardest racers I ever met. And then Keith Reesmeyer, we went down there for an opener one spring and talking about having fun. The night before, we were staying at the La Quinta over there at 16 and whatever that is. Well, and we were having our beers, of course. And we'd been over to the Mexican food restaurant with sailing tortillas across the restaurant and they landing on their heads.
Dos Pedros, yeah.
Yeah, Dos Pedros. Well, I had Keith up there over the railing of the top floor of the motel holding him by his ankles because I'd qualified second. He qualified first. I said, who's going to lead the first lap, Keith? Well, we're holding him over the rail. He said, I guess you are. That's the way we had fun.
Well, and that's the thing, Bob. For me, it's such a pleasure to get to talk to you and these guys. Because y'all were my childhood. Watching you guys and a lot of people ask me why I'm so hard on the racers now. And why a lot of times people say I'm negative and all these different things. And the sport is not the way it was. It's because of watching you guys. Because y'all taught me, how great this was. So it's a real pleasure, to get to have these conversations. And when you walk up to me at a racetrack and you're like, Rodney, I'm like, that's fucking Bob Bolin walking up to me, that wants to shake my hand or give me a hug or whatever. And that's really cool. I do want to ask you, because I'm going to pull this picture up one more time. So this is your car right there. Oh, shit. You can't really see it. I'm going to pull up Charlie's car because when you go to the track now, when you go to Houston and you see those outlaws with that long nose and that big old tall ass that I always talk about, doesn't that bring back some memories of what you guys used to do?
Mm-hmm. It does. Yeah. Those outlaws, I'll drool over those outlaws.
Yeah.
I really do. Greg told me to come down and drive his car sometime. We just BSing one time. And I thought, man, I hope he's serious. I like to just make a few laughs, But no, they are really neat. I got to really get around Greg's and look at it a little bit. And those are cool cars. They really are.
They're pretty cool. That's what I like about those is that, You know, it's that home built body. I mean, I know you can buy them now, but it does have that old look like you guys used to have, man. Because that was a late model Sportsman I grew up with. Bob, this has been a pleasure, my friend. And as we get into the off season, I mean, we can tell more stories. I mean, we can do the off the record stuff. Actually, we can tell whatever we want to tell here. It doesn't matter.
Okay. Well, anytime you need a filler or something and want to hear some more stories or something, I'm glad to share those because we were good at having fun.
You guys definitely never lacked in that from the stories that I've heard. And as I got very young, I mean, I was like, Bob, I was like 6 to 10 years old hanging around you people doing these things kind of in the background. And I'm like, oh my God, this is neat. Anyway. And yes, Bob, I think you mentioned there, Jennifer, that's putting on the reunion. You will be there. So I think
yes, sir. We're going to go.
Yeah. Love that. Mr. Boland, thank you so much, sir. We'll do it again soon. Thanks for taking the time.
Anytime. My pleasure. And thank y'all for offering it to me. So thank you.
Absolutely. Take care. Be well, sir.
Thanks, Bob. See you later.
All right. Bye-bye, guys.
You got it. There you go, Bob Boland. So you get Bob Boland, and you know, Bobby, I think what's even cooler about that is that you get Bob Boland coming on, talking there. You know, one of the real badasses that we talk about. I mean, he comes on after Brad Dixon telling a state of the state. Really cool stuff. Really cool stuff right there.
Yeah, no, I mean, I love it when we have these legends on. I mean, and what's even better, what I love about over the 8 years of this show, a lot of the legends that he is talking about, we've been lucky enough to have on this show. Slick Yeomans, Freddie Fire, John Kelly, Greg Davidson, Keith Reithmeyer. We've been great. They've been gracious enough with their time to tell us some of these stories. Yes, we're not going to know all of them, and maybe they'll tell us some off the air. Like they did down at the Derby that one time when we should have just stuck a microphone right in the center of that table and just hit record. But you know, these guys, you know, we had that discussion with Jennifer. Some of these guys, they're racers, and that's all they think they are, just plain old racers, which they are, but they inspired the next generation of racers. And I hope like hell they can inspire this second, third, and fourth generation of racers that's out there right now to be better racers, to be better people, to just have more fun. Yes, it's expensive, but damn it, it's about having fun and putting on a good show too.
Yeah, and I will tell you about those guys back in those times, because I was, you know, where we talk about with the kids, getting the kids involved and all the different things. I mean, back in those days, I was the kid. You know, I was the one that would go around, and you know, not so much in those days. And that's where it's so weird back in those times, because it wasn't so much about getting an autograph. I mean, you'd get a program signed because the programs had that spot where it said autographs, and you'd like go hand it to them. But it was one of those things to where it seems like back in those days, and I think that's where the not just racing. I think everything has changed so much, because what you wanted to do was sit there and just listen to these guys talk. And I think for the racers now, I would really highly recommend just have some conversations with people. Doesn't have to be with a kid. I mean, if a kid happens to be there, hearing you talk to other people about what you just did. I mean, those conversations were so powerful. He talks about Leroy Farmer. I mean, some of my most vivid memories, Bobby, of Leroy Farmer was sitting there listening to him tell my dad dirty jokes. But the whole thing was, it was like, that's Leroy Farmer talking to us. And I think that's some really special stuff that, you know, those are the memories with these guys. And I mean, I truly, man, I freak out when these guys walk up. I mean, like when Umshide walks by and wants to shake my hand, I'm like, that's fucking David Umshide, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I'm the same way. I love all these guys. Like, you know, the fact that I wasn't around for them, but they tell the stories, and they tell it with such passion, and they tell it with such grace too, that, you know, I mean, I think it's a generational gap that they have nowadays that we can't replace. That's why I love doing the legend shows. I love doing them now. I especially love them in the off season when we have nothing else to talk about, but just talking to these great guys and ladies over the course of the years. So I love it. And, I have an idea for you for the reunion, and I'll tell you about it off the air because I think that you're going to like it. It's something you may not have thought about. So,
oh, nice, super good.
Even though I won't be there, I'll be at Texana. I'm going to miss the reunion because I'll be racing at Texana. But I wish you guys, Jennifer and you guys, all the best. Talked to Milton about it a little bit there at Cotton Bowl, so he's looking forward to going. I know you're looking forward to going. So, I'm torn because I want to miss. I'm sad that I'm missing it because I love the legends and I love that racetrack. But I'm also happy that Texana gets another race in to close out the 2024 season to gear up for 2025. So I can't be in two places at once. I'm needed at Texana, so I'm going to go down and help the guys and ladies, Cord and Monty, out and try to put on a good show for the fans there in Edna, Texas on Saturday night.
Yeah. And for the reunion, it's going to be Milton's going to fire things off. I've got something that I'm going to be doing in Seguin at 5:00. I'm officiating a wedding for one of our good friends, our man Butch Havelka, his nephew, taking the plunge. I'm going to take care of that. Then I'm going to head over there. So it'll be good timing. Milton's going to start this thing out. I'm going to be real honest with you. Milton should do most of this, to be honest with you. I mean, that's his place. I mean, it's I was fortunate. I got to be on the back end of that. And I mean, my whole thing is with San Antonio is, yes, I raced there, but I mean, I was a fan there. I was a driver's kid is what I was most of the time there. And it's one of those things where I have a sponge memory when it comes to these kind of things where I remember all this shit. But Milton is the one that needs to fire this thing off and needs to drive it because that was his castle. And so he'll fire that off. I'll show up and then we'll continue to roll that thing off. Bobby's talking about Texana. That is coming up on Saturday. Hey, how about a preview of Saturday at Texana Raceway Park?
Saturday night, October 5th, Texana Raceway Park Racing Action hits the track for the final time in 2024. Factory stocks race for $1,500 to win. Hobby stocks race for $1,000 to win. Limited modifieds race for $750 to win. Also in the cars, E-Mod, go-kart, along with a Powder Puff Lady race and a mechanic race. Fun times at intermission with kids and adult foot racing. Gates open at 5. Racing starts at 7. Pit passes, $30. Adult general admission, $20. Senior military, $15. Kids 5 to 12, $2. Kids 4 and under are always free. For up-to-date schedule and purse information, find Texana Raceway Park on Facebook. Drivers, no registration fees for the final night of racing action. Grab your friends, bring the family, and have a great time down in Edna, Texas. Saturday night, October 5th, final race of the 2024 season.
But I do think that 2025 is going to be really good there. I think that with everything that you saw in the first event, I'm hoping that with the October 5th race, that you have that carryover. Because to me, it's race number 2 is very important. I think I've talked about it a lot of times. Race number 1, when something's been kind of away for a little bit, is always going to be a hit. Race number 2, I think, is really important. I think, folks, if you want, I mean, I just say, if you want big things from Texana, race number 2 Saturday this weekend is massive, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's going to bode well to end well there in 2024. So interesting note about the foot races, because we started out just promoting the kids races, and a lot of the adults got online on Facebook and commented, said, I'd love to race. So hopefully we have as many actually racing as talked about it on Facebook, but apparently the adults are racing for beer. Kids are racing for trophies, and the adults are supposed to be racing for beer, to the best that I understand. So I don't know if I'm going to be holding a beer out at the end of the straightaway, waiting for these guys to come by. I don't know exactly how we're going to do it, but I don't know. I think if you see adults racing for beer, I got a feeling it's going to be like a greyhound chasing a rabbit.
Oh, man.
Well, actually, not a greyhound, more like maybe a hippopotamus chasing lettuce. I don't know. I don't think they're going to get anywhere near greyhound status, but you get the idea.
The best part is that's at intermission. So be sure and have the video camera rolling for that, because that's where you're going to have like the dizzy bat race at the baseball game, where you're going to have these folks out there, shit, and you're going to have guys wiping out, and maybe ladies too. So yeah, that'll be cool. I know we did kids foot races at Corpus, and man, that was really hell. We made them run the big kids. We made them run the whole front stretch, and yeah, really good times. I like that. That's good family fun. You heard Brad talking about, and of course Bobby and I are always sporting the Revved Up on-demand shirts. Great gear. I mean, the best merchandise that you're going to find around here in the country, for crying out loud, as they continue to expand. I mean, they're doing stuff all around, now being the official merchandise provider of the Lone Star 600. It is on-demand shirts.
Shirts and OnDemandShirts.com. Custom apparel and promo products for every occasion. Birthday parties, reunions, company apparel, school events, fundraisers, and more. Much more than T-shirts. It is On-Demand Shirts. Check them out for your hoodies, shirts, koozies, and so many different products. On-Demand Shirts and OnDemandShirts.com. A leading innovator in apparel throughout the racing industry and in the state of Texas. On-Demand Shirts. More than shirts. On-Demand Shirts.
They are the best on-demand shirts. Check them out. Check them out on Facebook, and contact them if you want to be a part of the ODS team, because they would gladly set something up for you. All right, Bobby, kind of taking a look here as we close this thing out. Some of the regional stuff that I thought was really cool. Our man, a great friend of the show that we talk about, talking to all the legends. I mean, this guy's still doing it. Been doing it for a while, but kind of hitting his peak right now. Casey Roderick wins his third championship there at Five Flags Speedway, fourth Blizzard Series. I mean, Southern Super Series, third SSS, and Blizzard Series. I mean, this guy right here winning on Night of Champions there at Pensacola. A lot of momentum here for Casey Roderick going into the Derby.
Yeah, he's definitely on top of the world right now. Now, how long he stays there, you know, the one thing we've learned about the Derby, there's usually the heavy hitters are always there, and they're going to come up and bring their A game. But every year, there's one surprise guy that comes in and sets the world on fire in a good, positive manner. But there's that one surprise. A couple of years ago, it was Caden Honeycutt showing off to the racing world that he was going to be a force to be reckoned with. And then you had Derek Thorne that came in. Granted, it wasn't a surprise due to his dominance on the West Coast, but when he came over to the East Coast and dominated for a couple of years. So there's going to be a chance. Casey's going to be one of the ones to be reckoned with, especially with his record here coming up at Five Flags. And then, he did pretty well at Nashville. He did, he won the not Berlin. What was that race he won the other day, a couple of weeks ago? The ASA race.
Wednesday thing. Yeah, that was shit. I can't remember.
Well, and he's also leading the ASA National Stars points too by like a landslide. So he's having a damn good year. Anthony Campy and them, they built something special. And that camaraderie and that the timing of it and everything is really, it's, that Georgia native that now lives in Mississippi is definitely, he's definitely on par to have a damn good Derby week. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think the whole thing is when he teamed up with Campy, I mean, that was going to be a match made in heaven right there. And it's definitely produced right there. So good for Casey. I think it is one of those things where, again, storyline going into December is going to be which one of these guys is going to be the one that could maybe break through and win the Derby. But I will tell you, because we had the finale for the Alan Turner Pro Late Models as well on Night of Champions. Jake Finch wins in the Ronnie Sanders car with Carson Brown winning the championship, as Carson Brown leading that thing up until about 2 or 3 laps to go, and Finch makes the pass. And our man Caden Honeycutt, by the way, finishing 5th in that race. But I think that this year the Snowflake 100, which it is a byproduct of Snowball Weekend, but I think that this year, where we've watched the Pro Late Models kind of grow into their own skin, so to speak, like the Xfinity Series, I think the Saturday Snowflake 100 is going to be, I'm not going to say better than what we see on Sunday, but the Pro Late Model race is going to be damn good, because you're going to have a bunch of big hitters in that one.
Well, it's growing into its own excitement, right? It's growing into its own force. Like you said, the Xfinity Series now with the popularity and the competitiveness of the Xfinity Series is a good example describing the Snowflake 100 on Derby weekend on Saturday night. But I think that it is now turned into a destination race for those guys and gals that may buy the week pass and only give a damn about Sunday. There's a lot of eyebrows perking up and paying attention to what's going to happen there on Saturday night, not just because it's qualifying's on Friday night, but not just because of the other action that's there, the outlaw race and stuff like that that's on Saturday night. But I really think that this is instead of just one of those, I have to come on Saturday night because I bought the week ticket and all that. There's a lot of people that are really looking forward to this pro late model race coming up at the Derby there on Saturday night.
Yeah, I think that's going to be really good. You had a Carson Quapple on the way out, I guess, maybe one of his last races that he'll be in a late model stock, wins there at Martinsville. Big win for him. So, man, 40 cars. And I know that the dirt track people will hear that and be like, 40 cars? What's the deal? That's a big deal when it comes to asphalt racing on a half mile like that. And Quapple finally getting that one. I mean, he's won every damn thing else in that series or in that type of car, but he finally gets that one on his way out the door. I don't know if that's going to be his last Valley Star Credit Union 300, but it'll be one of the last ones because he's got bigger things bigger fish to fry, as they say.
Yeah, Junior Motorsport's going to do a little revamping with Connor Zillich and trying to get sponsorship there for Quapple. So it'll be interesting. The next thing will be who's going to be the next big star in that car, because they have come to find out that is a superstar building car that they have there in that 8 car. So that's definitely one that's going to be on the lookout. You're going to have a lot of applicants. For that car. So that'll be interesting to see who's going to be in that one next. Speaking of North Carolina and Virginia, Tennessee, our thoughts and prayers with our friends and family over there, devastated by that hurricane. I know that Asheville is a beautiful town. I've been there before, been to Boone. It's pretty tore up. So been to Lake Lure. So yeah, lots of sorry, I got choked about the hurricane, but yeah, lots of damage there, and our thoughts or prayers are with those guys and gals and the family. Some of them lost everything, and the worst part about it is in the mountains of North Carolina, you don't have flood insurance.
Yeah.
Because this is once in a lifetime thing. I read something today that said it's once in a Noah thing. You know, you know, a lot of these guys don't have we saw how devastating the floods were back in 2015 here in Central Texas. But I mean, you know, if I was living in the mountains, the last thing I'm worried about is flood insurance because the chances of it flooding in the mountains are fair to none. But unfortunately, a lot of those folks are going to lose everything because they just don't, you know, insurance company's going to say, nada, you ain't got flood insurance, not covered. So hopefully within a couple of years, those regions will rebound and they'll be back to the cool little tourist towns that they once were. So had lots of fun over there in the mountains of North Carolina, up in the western portion up there. Beautiful country, beautiful towns, great people, and sad to see some of the damage there. And then our friends in Florida as well, into Georgia with that hurricane. So not a good deal, but good to see. You know, the racing community already offering, you know, there in Florida about getting generators and power, stuff like that. So we've seen the racing community step up. Now it's time for, you know, the rest of the world to step up and, you know, take care of those people that need it in their tough time.
Yeah, and I will say, I think one of the best places to go is American Red Cross. If you want to donate whatever you can, I mean, that's one of those places where if you go to AmericanRedCross.com, you can donate there for that tragedy that they're dealing with over there, and that's going to go directly to them. I mean, there's no middle person. Anything that they're doing, they're going to apply that right to them. So yeah, thinking about that right there, a lot of folks impacted. I mean, a lot of people that we know, Bobby. I mean, it's when you start having those weather events that are going up through there, it's like, man, I start thinking about, okay, how's so and so, and it, man, it. God, and I was looking at something today where I think there's 3 more of those things out there that could get into the Gulf. I mean, there's one that could come our way in Louisiana. Our friends in Louisiana could be impacted by one, and God forbid, there's another one that's heading on somewhat of the same path that Helene just went through. So, man, it very trying hurricane season, and like you mentioned, well said.
And don't forget about our friends at the Humane Society. Don't forget, you know, animals are near and dear to our hearts. Definitely Lots of animals lost in the terrible conditions up there, but the Humane Society's on the run and trying to help out as many people with their animals as they can. Try to reunite pets with their pet parents and stuff like that. So just help out any way that you can, guys. It makes it, unless you've been devastated by one of those, you don't know how hard it is to recover. And definitely thinking of our friends over there in the Carolinas in the path of that thing. So
Yeah.
lots of prayers and good positive vibes to those people.
That's it. Yep. A lot of folks there. So definitely keep them in your thoughts as your week goes on. As we mentioned, coming up this weekend, obviously you got the Lone Star 600 that we talked about there with our man Brad Dixon, and we'll get his stuff podcast there. That'll be a standalone thing. But there it is right there. Brand new format, a lot of money up for grabs. And I love the format, the way it's set up. And I really do think that, as he talked about right there, and Brad, I'll tell you, man, the wheels and everything that he puts in motion right here, I think that he may really and truly revolutionize the way that some of these big shows are done. Because like he talked about, if you don't make the top 24, you're kind of shit out of luck. It's like, I was 25th. I was, almost good. Man, I really like what they're doing right there, and Brad's done a really good job with that. You can catch that on Race On, so be sure and check into that if you're a sub to do that. That's a really cool event, and I do think the small track is going to provide some really, really good racing.
I think it's going to be a unique format for sure, and definitely you get 20 or 30 cars, up to 50 cars there on that short track there at 105 there in Cleveland, Texas is going to be one hell of a show. Definitely will not be a shortage of action. That's for damn sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're going to be getting after it. They are definitely going to. And the thing, I really do like that, because, like he said, I wondered when the move was going to be made, because full transparency, when I was down there last year being a part of that, I had heard that was going to be the end of Devil's Bowl. And I'm like, well, what happens to this race? That was kind of my first thought, but they figured out a way to really make this, I think I maybe way too early to say bigger and better than before, but I think for people competing, it is bigger and better than before.
I think so, with the format. Yeah. Gold, silver, and bronze. If the bronze guy's got a chance to win, what, 2,500? Yeah, that's a pretty good payday for an enduro car.
That's a damn good payday for that. And of course, don't forget our friends in San Antonio, Bob Bolin, that was just on here, not just San Antonio, but around the area. You've got the big race reunion coming up October 5th. That is Saturday, 5 to 11 p.m. That's going to be over at the Backyard Kitchen in Poteet. Check them out on Facebook. All the information that you're going to need right there. You're going to run into a lot of really cool people if you go into that. I've kind of gotten the format for that. There's going to be some different things happening. Lots of storytelling, I think, is the main thing, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And it's a good time for folks to be honored and showcased. And it's not just so much about, like we talked about with Jennifer, it's not so much about SAS, Pan American, everything. It's a San Antonio thing. They're pulling all these people in. It's going to be a lot of fun.
I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Hopefully, the inebriation of some of these legends will lead to really good storytelling. The statute of limit, when it comes to alcohol consumption, sometimes the statute of limitation disappears. Well, especially if you get both parties involved, you get to hear both sides of the story.
when I was talking to Milton, when I told him that I was going to be a little bit later going to this, there was a mention there about some drunks maybe going out to the racetrack. I'm assuming I was a part of that. So you never know what you might get after the event.
The sad part is you got to pass Old San Antonio Speedway, Highway 16 to get to Poteet. So
it's right there. Pretty easy to find. Man, this has been a fun show. You had the champion, the inaugural champion of the, Stims. Chris Morris wins that after an epic battle right there, and he had to overcome a lot of different things. The conversation with Brad, that's going to be gold, as you mentioned, Bobby, and then Bob Bolin. What more can he ask for on a Monday with 2 Monday night football games? I would have rather watched this than Monday Night Football.
Yeah. And as we said, San Antonio Race Reunion On-Demand Shirts, proud provider of the apparel for the San Antonio Race Reunion as well.
That's right. Be sure and get your hands on on-demand shirts. You can look as good as Bobby and I. You can be fly like we are. All right, guys, we'll do it again next Monday. Thanks to all the first-timers that have checked in. I saw several comments there. We do it every Monday, 6:30 p.m. Central. Wherever you found it, it's going to be on next Monday. We'll break everything down and get you ready for the other week. Talladega. Is that what's next?
Talladega's next this weekend, baby.
Talladega. There you go. There you go. Ross Chastain, the winner on the Cup Series this week. I like it when those non-playoff guys win.
Makes it for an interesting show.
Yeah. I wanted 19 to win. I was hoping Truex, or dare I say it, I was hoping number 8 might win. But
I did too. I thought he was going to have a better shot, but he's got 6 more.
Yeah. Yep. Running out of time to keep that streak alive. All right, Bobby, have a great week, my friend. Everybody else checking in, you all have a great week as well. As Bobby mentioned, be sure and keep those folks top of mind that are going through some really, really tough times over in the Carolinas, up into Georgia and some of those spots. All right, we'll do it again. RevvedUpSportsShow.com. Catch all the replays. Everything is there. And we look forward to seeing you again next Monday. Bobby's down south. I am Rodney up north. We are in Central Texas. You guys have a great week. #Real Race Talk, never bigger than tonight. This is the Revved Up Sports Show.